Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for the Job Searching Lab. My name is Aaron Peterson. I'm a career consultant at the Center for Career Development. Today we're going to focus on job searching, so I'm glad you all could join me. And we'll kind of get to some of the details now about how this webinar will work. So what you'll want to do is look in your control panel, and you can join audio using either mic and speakers. You can choose telephone and dial in using the phone number provided. You will be muted for the duration of this presentation, so you can submit your questions through the questions tab, and I will answer them in the Q&A session after. This presentation is being recorded, and you will be provided the recording after the webinar within 24 hours. So today we're going to focus on how to search for a job. We'll talk a little bit about how most people tend to search for a job, and we'll go over some strategies for other more effective methods for landing that job. And this could be your first job or your second job or your 10th job, but just ways to be a little bit, use your time more wisely. So we'll talk about identifying industries. We're really going to focus on how to identify companies and target organizations that you might want to work for. And we will talk a little bit about connecting with alumni using some platforms including LinkedIn and Husky Mentor Network. So when most people apply for jobs, and we'll look at this in a minute, they're using job boards, and a popular job board might be Indeed or Monster.com or even on LinkedIn through their job boards thing. And unfortunately, the odds of getting hired using just a job board in general are about one hire in 250 applications received. And the reason for this is that there is a lot of competition. There may be postings on there that are attracting thousands of candidates, and although you may be the most qualified candidate, you might be too far down on the list for people who have applied, and you just might not be seen. So although it is a good idea to still use job boards, it might not be the best. I probably would not devote the majority of your time using a job board. A much more effective way to apply for jobs is to identify some target companies or organizations and apply directly through their website. Believe it or not, your chances of getting hired go way up because some of these jobs might not be on Indeed or on Monster, and therefore you cut a lot of the competition out. And also can demonstrate an actual interest in the company if you're applying through their website instead of applying through an online job board that you just stumbled upon the position. The best way to get hired, I guess I said your highest odds are through personal referrals. About 88% of employers report that they do hire through referrals. So this is not necessarily going to be someone that you know intimately, but it might be somebody that your roommate knows or is your neighbor's brother or something like that. So it's really important that people in your direct network kind of know what it is that you're looking for, have an idea of what your skills are, and so they can maybe suggest that you apply for certain jobs and certain positions. This is a great use of your time, and this is also why we'll dive a little bit into speaking with alumni through some methods. So when we talk about job search, there's really kind of two different ways that people approach it. There's the passive job search, which is identifying positions that you kind of stumble upon through Indeed or Monster, and you kind of apply, and then you wait around and hope that somebody calls you in for an interview. You do this over and over again. I speak with many students and alums who will apply for hundreds of jobs, and they may only hear back from one, two, or a handful. That's because that's really how the passive job search works. So although you do want to employ some passive job search strategies, you really want to spend the majority of your time in an active job search, which is what we're going to spend most of the time today talking about. Active job searching is identifying specific companies and organizations and trying to find out what kind of opportunities they might be hiring for, and really aligning yourself with those opportunities and putting yourself in the way of opportunities. We also, during the job search, you're going to be preparing your materials. These include things like your resume and cover letter, list of references, writing samples, those sorts of things. Although we're not going to cover that content in this webinar, the Center for Career Development is available to help you with this aspect of the job search. So make sure you schedule an appointment to go over that sort of thing. So we're going to dive into Husky Career Link in a second here. This is part of what I would consider more of a passive job search. But before we even get to Husky Career Link, I want to share with you one of the ways that many people will start searching for a job. So let's see here. So this is a very popular job search site. It's called Indeed. This is an aggregator which will scrape job opportunities from all sorts of job boards and present them to you in usually a very long list. So for today's example, we're really going to focus on pretending we're a student searching for their first job in the field of marketing. And so I'll kind of use that as our example throughout this presentation, but you can use this exact strategy for any type of industry. But if I were looking for a job in marketing, the average person will probably go into something like Indeed and they will just type in a keyword like marketing or maybe jobs for communication majors or some sort of keyword and just see what floats to the top. You can see here there's 751 jobs posted with that keyword search. And if we were to scroll through this, you'd see that some of them are going to be related to marketing and some of them might actually be pretty junk type jobs that might not be worth the time to apply to. One of the things that Indeed is really actually useful for is identifying target companies that maybe you didn't think about would have opportunities for your interest, marketing. But I would go in here, kind of see what's there, and then dive into some other strategies as well. So if I were to just open one of these up, just to give you a sense of what you look at. When you open up one of these, this is a typical job posting. You can see how you apply. The employer may have you submit a resume or apply through their portal or something. It could vary. But this is what a job description looks like. And so you'll see this in our next area, which is going to be Husky Career Link. So the reason I showed you this one is because Husky Career Link is very similar in one respect, but it's different in many. So let's kind of go into that. If you're not familiar with Husky Career Link or Handshake, which are synonymous, so if you hear people talking about Handshake and you hear them talking about Husky Career Link, they are the same thing. You can find this through the Center for Career Development's website at career.uconn.edu. You log in with your NetID and password, and essentially you land on your profile. And if you've already set one of these up, you're kind of familiar with it. But this sample profile, if you notice, has the major as a communication major, about to graduate. My GPA is on here, which you can hide or keep visible to employers. But this stuff is all kind of important because as you go in here to apply for jobs, it's very self-explanatory. You would click on the jobs link up here. And Husky Career Link will do some nice things for you when you go in here. It's going to make some assumptions as far as things that you might want to be searching for with your major. So you'll see down here popular searches for communication majors. Marketing is in here, as well as a couple of other things. And I'll call your attention to this public relations one. So we're going to talk about that in a second too. But if I were looking for a full-time job, I would click full-time job. I probably would want to limit it to a geographic area. And for the sake of this example, I'll just put Connecticut. And maybe I am looking for marketing jobs. And this will give us a list of 131. Many of these employers have relationships with the University of Connecticut and have hired many, many UConn grads. And the reason that they're on here is because they are seeking UConn graduates. So although it is a passive job search, I consider this more of a warm lead, so to speak, where you may be in a new pipeline that is running parallel to the pipeline that Indeed might have be channeling people. So the one thing I would suggest is if you find a job on Indeed or on one of those national job boards, I would double check and make sure if it's not on Handshake or Husky Career Link, because I'd rather you apply through Handshake because you just might be in a different pile of applicants that way. If I click on any of these, it'll look very similar to the last one we were looking at, Indeed, where it will have how to apply. It will also show you in this area as this loads kind of if you match specific preferences that the employer has set. So in this particular position, it matches the major that the employer wants. My GPA is high enough. I'm about to graduate, that matches. And this particular employer requires work authorization, so you can also see that I match that. So quick apply, we'll just apply using your profile, but there's all sorts of ways that the employer can have you apply. So this is essentially Handshake, the job search section. There are a lot of other resources as well in Handshake, but it's very straightforward. Okay. So as we move into talking about more of an active job search strategy, we want to talk about figuring out what industry we want to work in, and then from there moving into which target companies fall under that industry. Later on, you may want to start thinking about reaching out to alumni at the same time that you apply for positions and find specific positions at those companies or organizations. So when we talk about target industries, sometimes people are a little confused about what we mean by industry. So I'm going to show you a really great resource that help you narrow down what industries might be a good fit for your major or your interest. So the first thing that I would steer you to, and I steer many students to this, is a resource on career.uconn.edu called Vault. Now, Vault, you can go to vault.com, but if you go through our website, and I'll show you how to do that, you will actually be able to access all the paid-for areas of Vault, which is what you will want to be using. So when you go to career.uconn.edu in our resources section, you'll see this. So it will say Vault. If you click View Resource, you'll notice that now doing it through our website, it says at the top here, access provided through by the University of Connecticut. So this means that you have access to all the paid-for areas in Vault. Now, there are a lot of things in Vault, but we're really only going to focus on one area. Under this area that says Tips and Resources, I want you to click on Research Industries, because again, we're focusing on industries first. We're not to the positions part yet of our job search. Vault has a nice category, has industries categorized in a number of areas, so you can see kind of how they're organized. So if we were searching for marketing, that is an industry that kind of falls under this advertising, marketing, and sales. And you'll notice under there, public relations is in there. So a lot of the things that Husky Career Link was suggesting were popular searches for my major are going to appear in here as well. You can also go through, because you might see that there's all sorts of interesting industries that you may not have thought of or considered. And you'll see in a minute here how you can use this to really explore what some of your opportunities are. So we'll go in and we'll look at this marketing one and kind of give you a tour of what you see. But if you click on the industry, you'll see that there's a bunch of information about this specific position of marketing. So the overview kind of tells you what it's about. There's historical things about how marketing came to be and all that stuff. And there's also a link in here for professional resources, associations, which we're actually going to get into, but we're going to get into that in a later screen. So this is very useful for kind of getting an idea if this is actually an industry that's going to be a good fit for you or something that is worth exploring more. Now, at the bottom of this, you'll see that there are related industries as well as related professions within that industry. So if we're going to look into a little bit of one of these professions, I'll just click on marketing consultants, but you'll see that people work in all these different job titles within the field of marketing. So opening up marketing consultants will give you a ton of information about what exactly a marketing consultant does. This particular one has a Q&A video, someone that works in this field. You can see all sorts of detail about what sort of things that the job requires, if there's specific certification or licensing. There's also this area that says tips for entry, which will give you niche job boards sometimes. Down here, you'll also see, again, it will suggest some related industries. And so let me show you how you may go down the little rabbit hole here and getting lost in Vault. But if you were to click on public relations, again, you see another overview down here for related professions within here. And we'll open up, let's see, public relations specialists. And again, a whole overview of public relations specialists. If we click on tips for entry here, you get a sense of the sort of things that are in here. So one thing I always check is in tips for entry, you're looking for a professional association, because sometimes there's really great job opportunities that are hidden within these professional associations. Give you a sense of what a professional association is. This is an organization that people who work in this profession as professionals are likely a member of, where they can share ideas, legal challenges, trends that are going on in the industry. Most of the time these links work. They'll kind of give you a sense of what this would look like if you went this far. So again, we found this particular professional association through Vault, but this brings us to an entire list of positions available that are very specific to public relations, which is a very similar type of role as marketing. But these positions may not ever appear on a search thing like Indeed or another aggregator, because a lot of times companies will hide these types of jobs in an area that will only attract those who are really dialed into that particular industry. So always be on the lookout for professional associations and look for their job boards as well. And usually you do not have to be a member of the organization to view and apply for the job, although you would have to be a member to post them. Okay, so kind of back to Vault a little bit. You want to explore this a little bit and get an idea of what sorts of skills that an employer may be looking for, as well as places to apply. And you can use all this information to start putting together your written materials like your resume, your cover letter, and preparing for an interview as well, so that you're speaking the same language that the employer is looking for. Okay. So moving away from Vault, as we've identified some target industries, you're going to start to make a bucket of companies or organizations that fall within that specific industry. And again, today we're going to focus on marketing. And so I'm going to show you a really low-tech way to identify a bunch of marketing companies that might be in a specific area. Now, this is using Google Maps, so you essentially just, you want to use your PC for this, but you go and click on, go to maps.google.com, and then what I suggest you do is put in a metropolitan or an area. And I think with marketing, I'm probably going to start with something smaller than just a state. But if you're looking for a very niche type of role, you may want to just say in Connecticut or search Massachusetts. In this example, I've put in West Hartford, so you can see that it's outlined now in red. And if you use this button right here that says nearby, you click on this, and you'll see what most people use this nearby button for: restaurants, hotels, the nearest pizza place. But Google is really good about categorizing types of companies as well. So if you go to Google Maps and type in something like marketing agency, we'll see on the map a whole host of marketing agencies that happen to be in the West Hartford area. And it looks like there's a few of them kind of clustered around here. So as you click around on these, you'll see if I click on this Blue Spire marketing one, Oftentimes you'll get their website, which is where probably the next logical place would be that you would click. So let's explore Blue Spire marketing a little bit. Now take note of what the icon looks like because we'll be using this information a little bit later. But get a sense of what they do. And so, I'm not exactly sure what this company does, but you can get a sense, oh, is this interesting? Up here, I would probably get as far as finding the careers page. You'll see that they have they're looking for talent in a number of different areas, and many of these fall under marketing. So I would get as far as you can, as far as where you might apply, and then I would probably just bookmark this somewhere on your in a folder that says these are the marketing places I might be applying for later on. My suggestion is to develop your target list of companies first and then go back later on and look for things to apply to, kind of do things chunking. But it may be a better match for your style if you do them one by one. I might have this now bookmarked, so later on I'll come back, I'll visit this, and I might apply for something while I'm applying for a bunch of other things. Okay, so once maybe you've gone through this Google Maps thing, you've found ones that are interesting, ones that are not, you've bookmarked the ones that you want. The next thing to do is to develop a little bit more understanding for what the company does and what type of person works there. And so then we're going to move into using LinkedIn. We use LinkedIn a lot in our office for connecting with alumni. It really is marketed as a networking tool, but LinkedIn is very, very powerful as a research tool as well. So I'll kind of show you how you use LinkedIn as a research tool. And to be honest with you, this is how I use LinkedIn 95% of the time. If you don't have a LinkedIn account, we offer many LinkedIn labs throughout the semester. You can also meet with a career consultant to go over LinkedIn. But LinkedIn should be the probably biggest tool that you use in your job searching strategy. So you can feel free to schedule an appointment with a career consultant to go over how you set up a LinkedIn and how you utilize it. But we'll show you how you might utilize it for this particular use. So you can see I'm on just my landing page here, so it has things that are kind of going on that I follow. But I use this search bar all the time. So the first thing I might do is that, let's say we're going to use Blue Spire as our example company. I would type Blue Spire and see here's that logo, so I know it's the right place. And so this brings me to the company's little LinkedIn website. And then I might go down to this area that says people. What this shows us is that people that work at Blue Spire or have worked at Blue Spire live in these areas. They're coming from these universities. These are the types of functional job titles that they have. These are the degrees that they came in with. And this is pulled from an area on LinkedIn called endorsements. So you could set some of these filters if you wanted to. With 89 employees, I'm probably not going to do any of that because I want to stumble across more information. So if you see, just by clicking on these people thing, we see all these people that are on LinkedIn. And this particular Anne Marie person is a marketing specialist. So it may seem counterintuitive to click on somebody's, a person who's already doing what you want to do, but you can use this information in a whole number of ways. I may want to connect with her and talk to her. I don't think at this stage in the game I would do that. What I do want to know is what the job title that this particular person has and what the places that they used to work are, because Anne Marie here is a copywriter, but Anne Marie has a number of years of experience, it looks like, in marketing type things. So where did Anne-Marie start might be an interesting thing to know. And you can see that as a communications specialist in a place like Pratt & Whitney, then an insurance company, and then another insurance company, CBIA, these are all potential target companies that you may want to keep an eye on, because if the experiences that Anne-Marie gained were good enough to land Anne-Marie in this copywriting position, they're probably going to be good enough experiences for you to land similar types of experiences. So even with just one jump-off point, one company, we now have a whole list of companies that hire marketing and communications types of people from one quick search in LinkedIn. If you wanted to, you could then click on CBIA and you could recreate that entire search using the people function in there, and so on and so forth. And without too much time spent, you have quite a lengthy list of target companies in one area that may have specific functions that are interesting to you. The other thing that of note, and Anne-Marie's profile is really nice for this, but there's detail in here about what the actual work is like at these places, and this can help guide the types of bullet points that you may focus on in your resume if you're applying for this particular position at CBIA. It might help guide the sorts of things that you talk to an alum in another industry about what that's like and if it's similar. So LinkedIn has a whole lot of information that you can use. The other way you can use LinkedIn, other than using it to search company by company, is you can use it to search for alums and where they work. So if you type in University of Connecticut, it looks very similar to the company page, but instead of saying people here, it says alumni. And if you click on alumni, this should look very familiar, but you may want to, let's say if you're a communications major and you're wondering, well, what is it exactly that people in communications do? You can find, let's see, is communications listed in here? Oh, hold on, I'm not in my majors yet. Here we go. Now this is going to show only the top 20, by the way, of by number. So if communications, which it is in here, if I can find it, oh, here it is. It is in here. If this weren't in here, you can use this search bar up here, and you could type in communications, you would see it at that point. But if we click on communications, you can see that there are many UConn alums that had that degree that work at ESPN, Travelers, Cigna. Here's Indeed again. We'll keep talking about that. By the way, that is a Connecticut company, so if you're interested in that sort of thing. And so on and so forth. You could even set more filters. So you can see that most people who have a degree in communications report that their functional title is sales. But if you were looking for something more community and social services oriented, now your list of top companies would appear here. And again, these might just be target companies that you could then use to put in as a company search and see where else people worked, to just create a longer list of target companies to apply to. And the whole point of this is to try to stumble across position titles that you may not have considered applying for or searching for because you've never heard of that before. It could be to find positions at very interesting, fun types of companies that you didn't even know would hire your type of position. And it can be very inspirational to come across jobs that you never would have come across in a traditional online job board search. So I'm going to move away from LinkedIn for now, but just know that all of the career consultants are very familiar with LinkedIn and can walk you through all this stuff in an in-person appointment. But I would suggest that you create a LinkedIn, free LinkedIn profile soon. Haven't already. So Another big piece of the puzzle here is connecting with those who have already graduated from UConn. And hopefully someday you are part of the Husky Mentor Network on the mentoring side. This is a very powerful tool for you to use as a soon-to-be graduating student, or as a already graduated student looking for a career change, or as an established professional looking to give back to those who are in the position of looking for a new job. So I'm going to show you kind of what Husky Mentor Network looks like and how you use it. It's very easy and straightforward. So again, you can find this on career.uconn.edu or at uconn.firsthand.co. And when you get to the landing page, it's going to ask you, do you want to get advice or do you want to give advice? So if you're in the job search, you probably want to get advice. Now, I have already created an account here, but you would set up an account, but I'll show you kind of what it looks like as you log in. So this is an already created account, but if I go and show you what the components are that builds an account, you can see you add in your personal information, what your degree is. You can join specific groups. So we have groups, all sorts of groups in here that you can join if you had affiliations while you were here. And then you fill in some career goals. So you can see this career goals: public relations, communications, marketing and advertising. I'm interested in working for UConn Health. I'm interested in these sorts of roles. And as you fill this stuff out, it will, when you go to your dashboard, like career advisors. It works very similarly to like a dating type site, where it matches your profile and preferences with those who have elected to be advisors, and it shows you that. So if we click on Mary Olmsted, you can see Mary can help you with career conversations, resumes and CVs, cover letters, transitioning from school to work. You can schedule a time to meet with Mary, and this does not cost you anything. You can see what this mentor's background positions are, what their career path was, what they majored in, where they're located. These are UConn alums who are very interested in helping other UConn alums and UConn students as they transition into new or different career paths. We've had a lot of success with connecting students with mentors, and oftentimes mentors might suggest a specific place to apply to. They may mention ways that will make you a more effective applicant, and it's very straightforward. And what I will say is that in many of my conversations with students who are reluctant to use this, they're not sure how to start the conversation with the mentor. But as you go to schedule the time and you get all the way to the point where you're going to message, if I were going to message Mary, it will give me some starter lines for, hello, I would like, thank you for offering to help me. I would like to ask you some questions about, and it will give you some suggestions for things to write. So don't feel like you have to know exactly what you would write. This platform will give you plenty of ideas and things so you can construct a professional outreach email to this particular mentor. So, we also have a whole host of videos on CCD On Demand that capture a lot of these areas. And I'll kind of show you what that looks like. So let's see. So if you go to ccdondemand.uconn.edu, you can see that we're focusing on job search here. So there's a number of short videos in here relating to job search, including using pronouns in a professional setting, job search checklist, how you request professional references. Many of these videos are around 3 minutes long, so they're easily digestible. And you can see that there's a number of different areas that CCD On Demand covers. And all of these are topics that you may discuss in a one-on-one consultation, and there's also many resources on our website that kind of touch at all of these different areas. So that concludes this job search presentation. I do have a couple of questions that have come in during the presentation. Before I get to those questions, I just want to kind of go over how you can connect with the Center for Career Development. You can set up any appointments through Husky Career Link or Handshake, and those appointments can be one-on-one consultations with career consultants. It could be same-day career coaching, as well as same-day resume critiques. You can see the hours listed here on the slide. We are also all over social media, so be sure to follow us on that. So just to address a couple of the questions that came in, one question is, after applying for a job, how soon after can I follow up? This is a great question. I get this question all the time. So if you're applying for a job and you haven't heard anything, which is going to be more often than not, it's going to sometimes can feel like a real black hole when you're applying for positions. But if you have the contact information or you've met with a recruiter, it's appropriate to follow up about a week after you've applied. You don't want to overdo this follow-up thing, but you can always say something like, hi, I'm just inquiring about the status of the search. I'm really enthusiastic about the opportunity. Anything you can let me know would be very helpful. That sort of short messaging might get you somewhere. Second question, what should I say if I do follow up? So I addressed that a little bit in that last question, but the important part is to express enthusiasm and excitement for the position. This actually also goes for follow-up after you interview. You should send a follow-up email. But expressing enthusiasm and excitement for the position and the opportunity can go a long way. Oftentimes, people may interview, and when they leave the interviewer says, I really liked them, but I'm not sure if they really want the job, if they're excited about it, because nerves can come into can play such a big part in how you look when you interview or how you look at a career fair. So I always say express enthusiasm. I would always say keep the message very short. If you have interviewed or you have interacted with somebody at the organization and you're sending any sort of follow-up, whether that's a, hey, I applied, or hey, thanks for interviewing me, it's always good if you can mention something that you learned from them last time that you talked about, and that maybe that gives you excitement. So it was so cool to hear that you're working on this new project in this new area. I'd love to learn more about that. This all goes to kind of showing enthusiasm for the position. So that was all the questions that we had. Again, please connect with Center for Career Development, and thank you for attending our webinar.